During the March break, myself and 23 other students from STL had the opportunity to go on a service trip to Guatemala. We participated in various activities ranging from ziplining across the mountains of Guatemala to visiting an orphanage and meeting people with cerebral palsy. We observed and immersed ourselves with the people, culture, and most importantly, ourselves. The short week or so we had was enough to bring us together closer than ever before and reflect upon our lives and actions. This is our story. On March 9th, we departed from the Toronto Pearson International Airport at 9:15 a.m. After taking a quick stop at Mexico City for a couple of hours, we landed on Guatemala City at around 7 p.m. We took another bus ride to Antigua, which took another hour and a half. So it was only around 9 or 10 p.m. that we arrived at our final destination. Our journey had just begun.
Obviously, I was excited for the opportunity because, it was, at the end of the day, looking back on it now, was the opportunity of a lifetime. But at the time, I was definitely nervous because all these factors go in your head. What if the people on the service trip, we have conflict, or what if the kids are nervous around us, we don't speak the language.
In preparing for it, I really was unsure about it actually because we didn't seem very prepared at all. When it comes to the actual meetings, there weren't very many, and it seems like everyone kind of just put it together last minute.
My sister went on the trip last year. Found it to be an exceptional experience. I, had the preconception that it too would be, an exceptional experience, but I didn't really know what I was getting myself into at first, I haven't really done a lot of service work before. I've always had a vocation to help people, but, I didn't know what to expect. I knew probably gonna go to a country, meet some kids, work in a school, have, regular tourist activities as well. But I didn't know exactly what we were going to do. And I think that was the greatest mystery I had coming into this trip.
Our first full day in Guatemala was our attempt at being integrated with the Guatemalan culture. We visited various places and experienced things that we've never seen in our lives, such as attending Sunday Mass at a local church and visiting the Jade Museum, where we learned about the jade stone native to Guatemala. Everyone also enjoyed the free time we had to grab lunch and roam around. During the afternoon, we headed off to the coffee plantation, where we would experience one of the highlights of the trip. The tour began with a 40-minute hike up to the plantation site. Of course, being who we were at the time, everyone started to complain about how tiring and gruesome the hiking was.
How do you feel right now, Rahul?
I want to kill myself.
But by the time we had got to the top, no one was complaining. We realized that these elderly men hiked up and down the mountain on a daily basis, oftentimes carrying heavy objects. After a moment of realization, we had the opportunity to learn the fascinating ways of growing and harvesting a coffee tree and experiencing them for ourselves. With all the coffee beans collected, we headed down with our hands full at our guide's house. We walked through the process of making a cup of coffee by processing, hulling, and roasting the coffee beans ourselves. Of course, we got to drink the cup of coffee we made, and I think everyone would agree that they had the best cup of coffee ever.
We never get to really truly take in what we're experiencing and what we're so grateful for. And I just saw the people working and they weren't complaining at all. And I thought, why am I complaining about something so easy that isn't even hard? When the reality is, people are experiencing things that are so difficult and they have a hard time completing simple tasks every day in order to make ends meet. So that was an eye-opener for me on the trip.
These 3 days at the school, working with the kids was the biggest event of the entire trip. All of us had mixed emotions going into it, but in hindsight, everyone had learned or gained something valuable from the experience. This time, I'll just let people talk for themselves.
There was this kid named Alexis, and we got close for the 3 days. And the first day, I saw him, and I brought him like his kind of material bag, the stuff we were giving, like the donations, pencils and the crayons and all that. And he comes back 10 minutes later and he gives me some food. Like, he was like thanking me, and he was smiling, and I'm like, oh, I don't want it because it's yours. And he wouldn't leave. He grabbed onto my leg. He's like, you have to take it. And then the same thing happened 3 days later, or the last day. I was playing soccer with him, and he comes back 10 minutes later and he gives me food. And it was just him showing like his gratitude towards me for the little things I did for him. He felt like he had to reciprocate some way because they were so thankful, him specifically, for like everything we did for them. And to us, which seems so little, like to them it meant the world.
So my favorite experience was probably the first day with the kids. It was just so new and like so fresh to like see all those faces smiling at you early in the morning. Like, I didn't sleep very well the night before, but it felt like I just took 16 shots of Red Bull right there. And like, it was just great to see all the smiley faces, how excited they were for us.
The days we spent with them, the days we learned from them, the days, as a matter of fact, they taught us more than we taught them. Those were so significant and so iconic for me. I'll always have visions of that school and the kids and their smiling faces, always. Like, they won't disappear. I think also, the fact that I was ill one day, right? And missed out on that a little bit, really makes me savor and remember how exceptional those experiences were with those kids. Even the kids who I didn't spend much time with, the primaries, I was never really with them. I went on, as we were saying goodbye. But even in those, 20, 30 minutes I had with them, it was such a rewarding experience. And I want to say memorable, but that doesn't even do it justice. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I'd say volunteering at that school because like the gratitude and the gratefulness that those kids showed for even the smallest things was amazing. Like, no matter what you did, it was just like they showed so much compassion and love for you. They didn't know you coming up to that day. They'd only seen you maybe once, twice before, and they were just showing so much love and compassion. That was honestly amazing.
The best experience was definitely going to the school and seeing all the children there. They're just so happy to be in school, where I just dread every morning waking up and having to go to math class. I wish I could be like them, and I think I have changed to be like them. So, and as well as painting the school, I never cleaned so much in my life. My mom would be so impressed with me. But yeah, so that was probably the best experience, just becoming a new person.
Okay, so there was this girl named Elizabeth. She stole my heart. I was at the school, and it was the very last day right before we left. She grabs my hands, both of them. She looks me in the eye, and she's like, she does it in Spanish, and this girl's 10, and the amount of maturity with these kids. Sonia was beside me translating, and she was like, I want you to live the happiest and best life. I wish you all the best. I want you to be happy and healthy. Please never forget me, and I'm so appreciative to you. And we were supposed to be there to give back to them, and yet she gave me so much, and for her to say that really touched my heart. And I started crying, and she was wiping my tears, and she's like, I don't want you to see you cry. You need to be happy, and you need to live life to the fullest. And that was my most memorable moment.
The orphanage we visited on the 6th day was definitely one of the most impactful experiences we had. Due to several reasons, there's no footage available, but I think the interviews themselves are enough to capture the emotional value our visit had.
I didn't really have any of like specific experiences where I was woke, but generally speaking, I think the orphanage really had a big impact on me. We walked in, so we had to split into groups of 5, and my group went to it was like they weren't like old adults, they were maybe like new adults, maybe like 20ish, because I think it was separated by age. And as soon as I walk in, this guy in a wheelchair who had some sort of I think like maybe cerebral palsy, he wheels his chair over to me and puts his arm out, and like I knew not to touch them, so I put my hand out and let him grab mine, and he grabs mine, and he puts my hands on his chair, and so I guess that was the person. So we were in the Stations of the Cross, right? And so I took him around, and when we were leaving, about 5 minutes before we were leaving, he grappled onto my hand, and I was like, whatever, maybe he's just holding on for the ride. And as we were leaving, I go to pull away, and he tightens his grip, and that was kind of impactful, because like we were just there to take them to the Stations of the Cross, but like you could tell that he already like had bonded with me, and I bonded with him because he didn't want me to leave, and like we had to leave. So I started pulling my hand away, and it gets even tighter, and so I had to get one of my friends, Hussein, to like kind of distract him a little bit. And I pulled my hand away, and it kind of like hurt a little bit to have to leave, and so we started walking away, and he was kind of wheeling after us in his wheelchair, and like I just remember feeling so bad, but at the same time so grateful for the experience. And so I think that was the most impactful experience.
Definitely the one at the orphanage, because originally I was very scared to be doing something. I wasn't really sure of like what was going to happen, and I didn't have much experience, but I really realized by the end, like, you know, everyone's a person, and it doesn't matter about what our limitations are. We're all like very important and very unique, and we're all just here for like a greater purpose, which is like to be happy.
So seeing all these people, it impacted me, knowing how fortunate I am to live in the country I do, and with how healthy I am, and how there's people who are struggling and they need extra help. And I was really glad to know from the orphanage that there are people who did give them the help, and I'm glad we had the opportunity to do so.
The most memorable experience for me with service was going to the orphanage and seeing how many kids had cerebral palsy, and actually knowing that like almost everybody in Guatemala who had it lived there, and that they didn't have a family to go home to. That was a hard thing to see, but it was also something that has stayed with me.
At the orphanage, I think I really interacted with like my kid, like Henry. He's just like, I think everyone knows Henry. He was the one kid who was laughing the entire like ride there, but like I think like it really changed my perspective on disabilities, as well as how I can help my community here.
The orphanage for sure, because like it's really hard to put into words, just like seeing the things they have to go through. Like in the end, like you can talk about how grateful we are to have school and stuff, but in the end, it's about being healthy. If you're not healthy, you can't really do anything with your life, and not being healthy affects everyone around you. And that going to the orphanage really impacted me. Am I allowed to use profanity on this? Retarded. Yeah. Okay. So like that experience made me realize how bad that word is, because you're basically comparing a person to that kind of people, and that person is going through such a difficult time, and to compare someone to that degree is really not fair to any person. And I feel really bad whenever I like looking back. I used to say it a lot, and now I'm gonna try to say it as little as possible, just because that experience impacted me so much that like no one should have to go through that, and that we should really be grateful for how healthy we are, no matter what we have.
On a more positive note, for the last 2 days of the trip, we visited Lake Atitlan with a more tourist approach. Of course, the service portion of the trip was meaningful and enjoyable and all, but we also have to have some lighthearted fun, right? During our bus ride to the lake, we made a stop in San Juan and visited a local market. At the market, we got to see and feel what it really means to live in Guatemala, from the local food to clothing. Most importantly, the smiling faces of the people we saw reminded us of how happy they were living their lives. At San Juan, we also visited a local church and saw the influence faith had on the people of Guatemala. After a few hours on the bus, we arrived at Lake Atitlan. We explored the city, buying traditional jewelry, clothes, and accessories that we would bring back home, along with the wonderful memories. The next day, we experienced the extensive process of making chocolate at a chocolate factory. The time and effort spent on making a simple chocolate, again, made us reflect on how much we should appreciate what we have. Also, we got to experience the process of making cottons firsthand. Many of us tried to work with the cotton, but let's just say we had a harder time than we imagined. After lunch, we rode the tuk-tuk back to our boat. The boat ride back to the hotel was one of the most enjoyable experiences we had on the trip.
Okay, so one of the days while we were in Lake Atitlan, we we took a boat to San Juan or Santiago, one of the two. And when we got there, we were all really tired already. It's been a long trip. This was one of the last days. I think it was like Saturday, and we left on Sunday. And so it was a long walk. And on the way back, our tour guide Bronson, who's a legend, he got us tuk-tuks, which are like these like rickshaws or little buggies that are like 3-wheeled, and we had an insane driver, right? So I lost my phone that day, and that obviously wasn't an enjoyable experience, but for some reason I didn't care. And this was as we were leaving, so we get on the boat, and the sun's beginning to set, and I just remember getting on the boat, and I was a little bit like sad, I was a little bit depressed, right, because I just lost my phone, but you get on the boat and there's music playing, and you're with friends, and you're in a different country, and the scenery around you is beautiful. There's just a volcano right in front of you, and there's water surrounding you. You're just there, and in that moment, you're just listening to music, and everyone started dancing. It was weird. Everyone just got up and started dancing, and for like I don't know how long we were on the boat. It felt like an eternity. It was amazing. Best experience of my life.
Yo, we're out here on the boat, having a good time, soaking up the rays. You know, with my two boys right here.
Listening to good music.
Brown Power, Brown
life,
Squad.
you know what I'm saying?
No, exactly.
Everything must come to an end, no matter how wonderful it might be. All the things we saw, heard, did, and felt, it would simply be impossible to put all of them into words. One thing is for sure, we all came out of this trip with something we will remember and cherish for the rest of our lives.
I'm a lot more grateful for how many blessings I have. I'm a lot more appreciative of the people I've met and the people and the bonds I have with others. And I think overall, I'm just a happier, more loving person. And I don't think you can get much better than that. And that's why I'm going to keep on saying it. This trip was absolutely life-changing for the better, undoubtedly.
So would you say you improved as a person after the trip?
Without a question. You know, I went from being, you know, a person who often was concerned with, you know, those which were occurring immediately, right? I was concerned of living day to day, right? Instead of thinking of the bigger picture, right? How do my actions affect others? This trip really showed that. It really showed me how appreciative people can be of not only the tangible gifts you give them, but the emotional ones you give them as well. You know, having a conversation even in 2 different languages, just with body language. Giving a kid a piggyback, you know? I saw a kid, his name is Eric. He probably could have been a younger version of me, no question about it. And just the bond I formed with him, you know, how happy he was to see me, how happy he was to have the same name as me. I can't put that into words. It just really, really made me a bigger man than I was before I went on the trip.
I think I'm more open to a lot of things. Especially, I'm also looking for opportunities. Before I used to kind of be closed off and say whatever comes my way will come my way. But anything that I see right now, I kind of like I'm looking for opportunities to help in my community, like for special needs kids as well as that, and like just I'm more open to things. Yeah.
I've come back and I've become so grateful for the opportunities that I've been given. Like in school before I went, I wasn't trying as hard. I kind of took school for granted. I'm like, oh yeah, whatever, like it's just school. But looking back now, we picked up kids walking up an hour a mountain to get to school, and now it's just like it puts things into perspective, because it's like you shouldn't be taking school for granted, because in other countries they can barely go to school, right? So you just have to appreciate that what you have.
So while I was there, one thing that just really stood out, and I really noticed, was that they live such simple lives, and they're so happy. It's like they don't have these complex lives like we have, like in these first world countries. We have all these advantages. We have phones, we have computers, we have like downtown, just like a 40-minute drive, whatever. Like we have so many options, so many things we can do in our day-to-day lives, and like I'm not generally like unhappy, but I'm not happy. I'm just kind of living. But they have these simple lives where they wake up, maybe do their job, which might be like at a farm or like a coffee plantation, and they come home and spend time with their family, and that's it. And they're so happy. And so I think one thing that's changed about me since I got back is like I wanted to find how I could be happier, right? Because like what's the ultimate goal in life is to be happy. At least for me, my ultimate goal is I just want to live a happy life. I don't want to live with any regrets, right? So I think what I'm trying to do is broaden my perspective on things, because although we have complex lives, from a very broad perspective, it's really not that complex. Our lives are pretty simple. We wake up, we go to school, we do our thing, right? And if you take this more broad perspective on life, I think that we can make our lives, like we can understand our lives more and just live a more simple life. Because at the base of our lives, we have existence. And I think that's all we need to be happy about, right? So I think that's one thing that's kind of changed from my perspective, is my perspective on life, yeah.
I learned first and foremost that, a little goes a long way, and that, we should be happy with the things that we need, and that the material things that we have in life are not the most important ones. Obviously, it's the relationships that we have with each other and, with ourselves that are the most important things. And just seeing all the people in Guatemala, meeting with the kids, that's what this trip really taught me.
I learned that despite whatever differences people may have physically, differences between people, any differences, people always come together because that's what's most important, and that we don't really have we don't really have any reason to judge or be angry when there's so much good in the world and so much good in other people, and there's always better things to come, and even when things don't look like they're gonna go your way, everything kind of works out in the end.
I would like to end this documentary with one last word. The Guatemala service trip was
life-changing,
rewarding,
eye-opening,
unforgettable,
different,
magnificent,
magical,
amazing,
astonishing,
breathtaking.
Thank you, Guatemala.
Go on a trip because I wanted to expand my plethora of knowledge.
What? Why are you ready to say that?
Alright, let's do that again. Why did you decide to go on the trip?
I told you guys I'm gonna take long.
You gotta cut that.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we can keep it in the bloopers.